So some news of the day type stuff, and of course for Oiler fans, they're still celebrating in the streets from Dave Tippett being hired. You're not? Okay, all right, that's fine too. I wanted to get this out of the way right away. So Evgeny Kuznetsov, there's a video that showed up on Twitter, which shows him next to a table which appears to have cocaine and money on it, American money. Now, it's already been deleted. Kuznetsov has said what happened is it's a video from after they won the Stanley Cup last year. It was taken in Vegas. He walks into a room where a friend of his was, and there was drugs and money present, and he said, I'm out of here, and he left pretty quick thereafter. The idea that there's drugs in Vegas is not that odd. Really isn't. And the NHL's looking into it. The Capitals are looking into it. And what Kuznetsov said is, give me a drug test right now. I'll pass it. So that's why I've got in hot water, and hopefully not. Because I don't think there's anything here. And honestly, I find it weird that in the league where we talk about all of these players and all the pain that they go through all the time and the painkillers they end up on and all the other things that go on, that people would be shocked to learn there might be drugs at a party. Yeah, there might be. Might be a thing. Turns out when guys are millionaires in their 20s and late teens, there will be some who make some bad decisions. I'm not saying Kuznetsov's one of them. I just find it weird the NHL does this whole investigation thing. The only thing that I get concerned with is they're awful about suspensions and whatnot. So if you come out and admit you have a problem, well, you kind of get... I don't know. I don't like the way they treat players who admit they've got a problem rather than ones that hide it. So, anyways, I don't think so. I don't think this has anything to do with what happened in the World Championships. And I honestly, I think if we knew just how many parties NHLers go to which have drugs at them, I think we'd probably all, myself included, be surprised by it. Because, let's be honest, those of us who are working class, there's drugs. There's drugs available. I've been at workplaces where I say, what's wrong with that guy today? Oh, probably Coke. No, okay. And they're not talking about cola. And as somebody who, in my previous workplaces, I was a level 2 first aid attendant, they would kind of have to come and tell me, hey, keep an eye on that person. They're on some drugs today, and I don't know what's going on with them, so keep an eye on them. And I'd be thinking, great, awesome, glad you came to work. Okay, that being said and moving along. So again, before everybody goes, oh, Kuznetsov this, da-da-da, it's everywhere. And it's foolish and naive for people to pretend that it's not. So hopefully this just is nothing. Sheldon Keefe has signed a 2-year extension with the Toronto Marlies. Now, I haven't seen how much money he got as coach of the Marlies, but the rumor was he was going to be the best paid coach the American Hockey League's ever seen. So, does that mean in 2 years he takes over for Babcock? Because the writing's on the wall that Kyle Dubas sees Keefe as, coaching material, not just as American Hockey League coach, but as the next coach of the Leafs. So whether it's Babcock that decides eventually, all right, well, I've done enough, or at least eventually say, all right, Mike, it's been X amount of years, we're good, we're going to move in another direction. I do think Sheldon Keefe eventually becomes the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Dubas was very clear that he intended to keep Keefe within the organization. Now, Bettman talked yesterday, so we're going to split it into 2 different topics because they are 2 completely different topics. He is not happy about the hand pass goal either. And he said Bill Daly was hot after that goal. He was really unhappy with that hand pass goal. So when people say, well, the NHL's got it rigged in favor of... No, the NHL was not happy with that call. But again, not reviewable. They couldn't change it. They also said that the Situation Room saw that goal that Columbus got, the Panarin goal, that actually had hit the mesh and the whistle should have gone and blown the play dead. They knew that happened as well. Could not call in and make a change on that goal. They could not. That is not something that was reviewable. So he has said he wants to see some sort of change with the replay situation. He doesn't want to see every single play in the game being reviewed. He thinks that that'll really slow things down. He also said they can't put the genie back in the bottle. So the idea that that the NHL can go back to before video review and just let them play. That's never going to happen either. So for people who want to know what could happen when, June 11th, the competition committee is meeting. That is what has to happen before you can start reviewing different plays. The competition committee has to get together and agree on that. June 20th, GM meetings in Vancouver. So the competition committee could come forward and say, all right, we've come up with these ideas for changes. The GMs could get together and say that's a really good idea. There will be changes for next year. Absolutely 100% there will be changes for next season. It does mean that for up to the next 6 games, we kind of hold our breath and hope. But here's the thing. The plays that we've seen in the playoffs that have been so controversial could have happened in any playoffs. So, it's a bad run. These things happen, but it's going to be looked at, and I think the NHL is going to change some rules. Assistant General Manager Tom Fitzgerald was asked about the whole Kakko Hughes thing. For some reason, how the Devils feel is considered to be important right now. And he has said that Kakko is more mature than Hughes. But he also said Hughes will get there. And they believe that both players are going to be physically mature enough to handle an NHL job next season. Now, there was a lot of talk about how they played at the World Championships and Hughes being a healthy scratch. But honestly, what Craig Button has said, and this usually comes out to be the case, GMs will lean towards centers over wingers. And if that's the case, then Hughes projects as the top-line center and Kakko projects as a winger. Now, could you convert Kaapo Kakko to a center spot? Maybe. Would the Rangers try that? Possibly. But, again, because Hughes straight up looks like he'll be a center, he likely ends up going first. And there are any number of times where we can look back at draft decisions. I remember when Pierre-Luc Dubois was drafted ahead of Puljujarvi. That was one of the reasons given. That Columbus wanted a center. So as much as Puljujarvi looked like he'd be a top-line winger, they needed help down the middle. So, again, when a team is in a rebuilding mode, they're going to look down the middle and strength down the middle. You look at the teams that win Stanley Cups, strength down the middle is huge. And back to the Gary Bettman discussion from yesterday. There is tremendous hope for a CBA extension. And here's why. The NHL's never made more money than it's making right now. The hockey players playing the game have never made more money than they're making right now. There is no hill to die on. The salary cap is in place. That's why we lost a whole season back in 2004 or 2005. That was the hill to die on for the general managers, and there really isn't one that's worth it. People will point to the Olympics, people will point to escrow, but I don't know that there's any one item that you look at and you say, yeah, players would be willing to strike to get that, or owners would be willing to lock players out. I think this CBA works great for the owners. I don't think there's much of anything the owners want to change. And for players, yeah, the escrow, the Olympics, and some other things we can talk about. But really, these are kind of minor in the big picture when you compare it to the last lockout and the lockout before, and lockouts and strikes going all the way back to 1995. This does definitely look like we could see an extension. They are saying that yes, there's the option of it expiring, and it expires in September, and then 2020 it's officially gone. But he believes they can sit down and talk out an extension, and has said the talks they've had so far have been very productive. So for people who don't want to see another lockout, good news. It doesn't look like you're going to see one. I don't see any reason why the players would necessarily want to. Again, it's the NHL owners that do the whole lockout process, so that's on them, and it's the players that do the striking. Players are not going to strike for the escrow reason, because just publicly that doesn't work. Public opinion plays a major role in strikes and lockouts. And that's why during a lockout and during a strike, we'll see numerous press releases from players, from owners, and they'll both try to get the fans on their side. Owners saying, hey, these guys want more money, and that means you guys are going to pay more for ticket prices, so we're trying to fight for you guys. Whereas the players are like, hey, these guys are just robbing us blind, and they're kind of robbing you blind too, and we want to get some more transparency when it comes to the books. I don't think the NHL is 100% transparent on everything. because that's just not how big business works. But I think they're much better than what they were before this whole process of one CBA to another began. And I do think in 2020 we have a much better chance of seeing an agreement than we've had for a very long time. But let me know what you guys think in regards to this in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.